Hey everybody, Rob DeLessio, Taste of Retirement. Today what we're doing is a steak Benedict. Traditional favorite, but we twist it just like we always do. Come on, let me show you how we do it. Okay, welcome back. Now don't forget, if you haven't gone to our YouTube page yet, what are you waiting for? Like, subscribe, you'll see all kinds of amazing content, just like this one. What we're doing today, steak Benedict. We're taking a classic and twisting it up a notch. We're gonna take a ribeye, really nice ribeye. It's got some nice marbling. It's choice ribeye. Get it as close to room temperature as possible. We're gonna pan sear that. Then obviously we're gonna poach an egg, make a homemade hollandaise sauce, and toast off some English muffins and make the classic. And some of the ingredients you got unsalted butter, melted. You've got a really, really cold egg. That'll be for poaching. Some white vinegar, parsley, cayenne pepper, kosher salt, and coarse ground black pepper. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna season the ribeye, because I don't know what you think, but ribeyes don't come seasoned where I come from, so we gotta make it seasoned. Nice covering in kosher salt. Then we're gonna do some coarse ground black pepper, and that's it. Let the meat speak for itself. A little bit of canola oil or vegetable oil. Remember, anytime that you're pan searing or anything like that, you need to be able to have an oil that has a really, really high smoke point, or otherwise, like if you use butter or olive oil, you could burn it and then it just won't taste very good. So get that pan smoking hot, which we've got. You're gonna take the ribeye, we've seasoned the top side, place that down. And then I like to season the other side. Now, while that's doing its thing, I've got a pan sitting over here. It's got about 1 inch of water in it. I've got it going almost to a simmer. I'm gonna add a little bit of white vinegar, and then we're gonna add some salt. And you know, a lot of people are intimidated about eggs Benedict or maybe a steak Benedict because of the poached egg and the hollandaise sauce, but they're really simple to make. You just gotta be careful. You've just gotta be careful with them. But if you make a mistake, you just do it again, no big deal. But you've added the vinegar and the salt, you mix that around, get that going, and then once that reaches a simmer, we're gonna poach the egg. On the steak, you wanna get a thin steak. You know, normally like when you're grilling, you wanna get a really nice thick ribeye or strip or maybe even a filet. But when you're gonna pan sear one for a breakfast sandwich, if you would, like an open face sandwich, get a nice thin one, no big deal there. Okay, so obviously you can hear all that sizzle in it, which is just an awesome thing. It smells amazing. You wanna make sure that you get a nice color on the other side. And then what you're gonna do, you're gonna flip it over, do it again, and let it go for a little bit, because the meat will cook up when you take it out. You can see it's got a beautiful golden brown there. All right, so we're getting ready to poach the egg, and what you're gonna wanna do, you get a whirlpool going. And the reason why you get a whirlpool going is because that way when you drop the really cold egg in there, all that lace is what they call the egg white. It would end up lacing out into the water. This whirlpool will kind of bind it together a little bit, and then eventually it'll settle. So get that whirlpool going, grab your really, really cold egg, and then plop that in the middle. Then you let that go for a little bit. And then what you want to do, this is really, really important. Place a lid on it, turn it off. Turn the heat off, just let it sit for about 10 minutes. And then it's gonna do all the work itself. Meanwhile, the ribeye is almost done. And then just like any other piece of meat or steak or anything like that, when you cook it, you take it out, you gotta let it rest for a little bit. Let all those juices incorporate back out through the muscle. So we're gonna go ahead and take that out now. We're gonna let it set on the plate. Meanwhile, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take a little bit more of the oil, and then I'm gonna toast, just to get, I mean, obviously those juices are delicious. We're gonna toast the downside of the English muffin. We've got a nice gold on the English muffin, so that'll be great for a nice open face sandwich. Now, when poaching eggs, you can do like a soft poach, you can do a hard poach, kind of like when you're boiling. I like a soft poach, and we'll talk about this later, but when you're using your fork or whatever, you want it to be just like a nice pillow of happiness. And then that way, when you take that first knife and you cut through, the yolk just runs all over the place, and it's just absolutely velvety deliciousness. Now onto the hollandaise sauce, one of the 5 classical sauces. You've got bechamel, you've got veloute, you've got espagnole, you've got tomato, and you've got hollandaise. Then you can obviously make a variation from the hollandaise, like a béarnaise, which is great on a steak or whatever. A lot of people are intimidated about it. They're not that hard to make, but they are a little bit picky. The one thing I will tell you, if you break the sauce, which means like it scrambles or it separates, you can fix it. Just be consistent with it, okay? So what you've got 4 eggs, and you actually need to use just the yolks. So you separate the egg. Okay, we've got the 4 egg yolks in there, and now we need about a tablespoon of lemon juice. I always like to do it through my hand. Don't worry, my hands are clean. Well, you're not eating it anyway, but this way you can just stop the seeds from going in. But you get about a tablespoon, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna whisk it. This is where you need to have a nice, it's a good workout for you. I like to turn the bowl on the side when I whisk, and then just keep going. And what you wanna do is you'll notice as you continue to whisk, it'll increase in volume, meaning like it'll double in volume. So it'll get thicker and thicker and thicker. So you just keep whisking, and when it gets a little thicker, then we'll move it over on top of the water bath. All right, so what we're doing with the water bath, you take a pan, you've got about 1 inch or so of water, you get it, simmering like that to where it's releasing some steam. And then you get a metal pan like this so that you can fit it over the top. And then what you wanna do, if it starts to get too thick, the eggs are gonna try to scramble. So you're gonna go back and forth from the heat. And then what you wanna do, you take 1 stick of butter that's already melted, and you slowly drizzle that in. And this is where if you're not careful with this and you don't keep it constantly moving, then the sauce could break on you. But if it does, just add another egg yolk in and keep going. It's pretty simple. But again, the one thing you wanna do, you wanna make sure that you continue to whisk, keep it in motion. Otherwise, when it gets hot, it'll all coagulate up, it'll all get really solid, it'll actually be like fancy scrambled eggs. That's no good, you gotta start over. Okay, so we've got all the butter in there, and then we're just gonna keep whisking a little bit longer. Make sure you get it nice and thick. And then I sprinkle in a little bit of cayenne pepper, a little bit of salt. Because we always use unsalted butter because you get to control the salt content in there. Sometimes if you like things less salty, you're not gonna be able to control that. All right, and there you have it. The hollandaise is done. What you wanna do, you wanna store that in a nice warm place, not too hot. That way it doesn't cool down and then get too solid on you. All right, we'll check on the egg here in just a second, and then we'll plate it and we'll wrap a bow on this. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes. The egg should be perfectly poached. What you wanna do is make sure that you use a slotted spoon because you wanna let that water go out. I like to use like a stainless steel or something like that because the egg will slide out easily. You also wanna use as flat of a plate as you can because that way it can slide on top of the open face sandwich. So take the lid off, check your egg out. Try to fish around for it. Obviously you wanna make sure that you do not break that yolk. You can see that jiggle there? That jiggle means that inside's really, really happy. So what you do then, just slide that on your plate. Now, what you wanna do is serve that immediately. If you don't serve it immediately, you can, you can refrigerate it for about 8 hours or so and then reheat it. Don't do that, serve it immediately. So, take your plate, grab your ribeye, or take your sandwich first, grab your ribeye. I'm gonna cut this one in half. It's cooked perfectly because that's what I do. Then we're gonna take the egg, drop that on top. Grab your hollandaise. If it's sat around a long time, stir it around, just make sure that it's nice and loose. Then spoon that over the top. And I love hollandaise, so I tend to be a little bit generous with it. Then of course you just want to do a little bit of parsley to garnish. And we're done. And there you have it, steak Benedict. Took eggs Benedict, twisted it up a little bit, and it's absolutely fantastic. Don't forget, go to our page, like and subscribe. You'll see amazing content just like this one. I'm Rob D'Alessio, and this was A Taste of Retirement.